Kathy was a public school, elementary school teacher on the mainland, and she was just about to retire and so looking forward to her retirement. One of the favorite things that she had planned after she retired was the trip of a lifetime. It was her dream trip. She was going to go to the Holy Land, and she was going to walk where Jesus walked and see all the things from the perspective of Jesus and his disciples, and she couldn't wait. She was also a Sunday school teacher at her church, and she was used to telling the stories of Jesus to the children of her church, and every time she talked about the stories of Jesus, she imagined what it would be like being in those places. And for almost her entire career, she was planning on that trip to the Holy Land. And she got to the point where she was actually planning her itinerary, where she was going to stay, what were the most important things to see in each place, where she was even going to eat. She just was getting so excited and looking forward to that trip. And then one day something happened in her life, and all of those plans completely changed. Her church had just gone through a visioning process where people started to say, here's where I believe God leading our church. Here's how I think God can best use us in our community. Here's how we all feel God guiding us. And then they decided, lo and behold, to do this crazy thing called a capital campaign. And she started thinking about this trip and decided that she needed to talk to her pastor about it, because she felt like she didn't have the money for both the trip and what she would like to give to the capital campaign. So she went in and sat down with her pastor in the office, and she basically said, I don't know what's happened to me through the reading of these scriptures and the prayer, but I've decided to take all the money that I was going to use for this trip of my dreams and give it all to the capital campaign. And the pastor thought he didn't hear right, first of all. So he had to ask for clarification. And then he said, are you sure? I mean, he knew about this trip. She had been talking about it for years. And so he said, are you sure this is what you want to do? And she said, there's no question. It's what I want. You see, it occurred to me as I've been praying about it that all these years I've been saving money, not really for me, one person, to walk where Jesus walked, but to help many people walk with Jesus. And as she explained to him this process through prayer that she went through, he was just blown away. The pastor was just like, I believe in prayer, but wow, I'm amazed. So she ended up writing the biggest check of her life, biggest check she'd ever written in her life, and she handed it to the pastor, and all he could say is, thank you, and would it be possible, do I have your permission to share your story with the rest of the congregation, because I'm so touched, and I believe everybody else would be touched, and it's so motivational. And she said, well, I guess if you think it would be that helpful, but if you want, I'll share the story. It's my story. And so he said, absolutely, next Sunday, I want you to share with the congregation what you just shared with me, or any part of it that you would like to. And so she got up in front of church that Sunday morning, and she told the people of the story about how she had thought she was saving money to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, but instead she realized that all those years she was actually saving her money to help people walk with Jesus. And the whole church, like the pastor, was just blown away at what happened to her. It was truly transformational, and people were thanking her for her sacrifice, and she said, oh no, it's not a sacrifice. It's what I want to do. It's not a sacrifice at all. That church raised so much money. Everyone was blown away. It sounds a little bit like a church I know right here in Koloa. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But what I do want to share with you is, first of all, many of you know that I used to be a consultant for a firm in Dallas called RSI Ketchum. And my job as a consultant was to go to churches and nonprofit religious organizations like Christian schools and camps and retreat centers and denominational offices. And my job was to help people figure out what their vision was together and then figure out how to make that vision happen. And a lot of it had a lot to do with fundraising, how to encourage people to give not out of sacrifice necessarily, but because they really wanted to, because that was their vision. One of the things that I always did, everywhere I went, I would say, here are some scriptures that I encourage you to read over prayerfully and ask what God might be speaking to you through those scriptures. And this woman, Kathy, at this church on the mainland, had done that. And she had prayed over those scriptures and said, God, speak to me. What is it that you want me not just to know, but how might I change through the reading of the scriptures and to allowing these scriptures to land on me and to fill my heart in the ways that you want to speak to me? And the scriptures that Larry read for us just a little while ago were some of the scriptures that I often encouraged people to read and ponder as they were considering how they might be involved more fully in their church or their organization. And so Psalm 49 tells us, when you die, when we die, we're not going to be able to carry anything with us, none of our wealth or our possessions. It's another way of saying you can't take it with you. It's right there in Psalm 49. And then in Colossians, we are told that we really should do everything we can to completely rid ourselves of greed and not be greedy in any way. And then in Luke, it's the story of Jesus telling people, you know, life is so much more than our wealth and our possessions. He never says there's anything wrong with wealth or possessions. We all need some of it. We all know that. But Jesus is telling people there's so much more to life than that. And if that's all you're focused on, you're not going to live a very fulfilled life. Instead, strive after the things that are important to God. Seek those things that are important to Jesus. Love the things that Jesus loved. And when you read through the entire Gospel of Luke, there's no question what those things are. Compassion and mercy, peace and justice, openness and prayer. It's pretty clear what Jesus was talking about. And as I was reading over these scriptures this past week, something kind of came to my mind more clearly than it had before, and it's the idea that trust is at the foundation of all three of these scriptures. It is, isn't it? If we truly trust in God and the abundance of this universe that God has created and gives life to us through, do we really need to worry about stuff like money and possessions and trying to have more when most of us really have enough? It's about trusting God fully for all the things that we need in life and knowing that, and I love this about Luke as a gospel. He makes it so clear. There are people out there on the margins of society that need to be loved. People way out there where maybe nobody else loves them. Our job as followers of Jesus, if we're going to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, is to go to where those people are and offer them the same love that we feel as Christians, as people of God. It's all about trust. A year and a half ago, we went through a process of trust as a church when we basically said we have a vision, we have a mission, and we believe that Koloa Union Church is a place where Everybody needs to know this is where you come. No matter who you are, no matter where you are on life's journey, you're welcome here to come and receive all of God's love. You're welcome to be a part of our community of compassion. And even if you don't want to come here and we go out and find you, we're going to bring that compassion to you. And one of the things that we decided as we had put that vision together is to make this place look a lot more welcoming and inviting, so that when people drive by, when people pull into our parking lot, when people come into this church, they feel like, I'm welcome here. This feels so good. This feels like God's grace and God's mercy. And so the congregation decided a year and a half ago, we're going to have a capital campaign, and we're going to try to raise $150,000. Oh, that's a lot of money, isn't it? People were saying back then, are we stretching too much? Well, within a couple months, we knew that before we even asked the congregation to give to the capital campaign, we already had over $150,000 from a handful of people, mainly the leaders of this church, but people who said, we need to step forward in faith and walk in the footsteps of Jesus so that we can show the congregation this is important to us. As of today, we have raised over $300,000 in cash and commitments, and more than 2/3 of that is already either in the bank or spent. We not only did what we didn't think we could do, we did way more than that. We did more than double that. And it's because we trusted. We trusted God. And one of the things that I did early on with this church, just like I said I did everywhere I went, I presented some scriptures to the people of the church. And I know some of you read them because you told me, thank you for giving us those scriptures. I've read them, and they've really made a difference and given me some clarity. So you looked at those scriptures, and you prayerfully considered what God might be speaking to you. And this morning, as I was walking to church, and I turned the corner and I saw that big, beautiful sign, and I thought, oh, the people here are so generous, and we trusted. And as I looked at our new landscaping, and as I looked at our new bell tower, and as I came in here and saw the new railing over there, and the pulpit and the candlesticks, I thought, we are walking in the footsteps of Jesus, and we're trusting. And as I started thinking about what's yet to come, the rest of the landscaping, all of our outdoor lighting, more furnishings for the sanctuary, the enclosure of this space over here so that we actually have a narthex that's enclosed, and the enclosure of that space, and the new women's restroom, and the remodeling and expansion of the church office. As I was thinking about all that stuff, I thought, I really have nothing to worry about. We have nothing to worry about. And the reason for that is because we have put our trust where it belongs, and we have trusted God, and we have given so generously. I'm not sure what else to say, but thank you for trusting. Thank you for being generous, and thank you for being a part of the vision. I'm so glad to be here, to be your pastor, and knowing that you have made my job so easy and worry-free. So thank you. Mahalo nui.